snowy weather to come out with my family and Jean. Welcome. Okay. I wanted to just talk a bit about this technique, body balance activation technique, just to give you a little bit of an idea, put it into context as to where it actually works and what we believe we are doing when we are working with it. Okay, what works and what we believe we are doing when we are working with it. Okay, what we believe we are doing when we're working with it. Okay. Just for Jean's benefit, a little bit about me. I've been involved in healing since about 2001. Did EMF balancing technique to start with, and then did Reiki. I teach Reiki. I am a Reiki master. Don't like the term Reiki master, but I teach Reiki. And then this little boy came to visit me. The dad phoned me up and said he has this very severely disabled child called Gregory, and would I be prepared to work with him? And he has cerebral palsy and epilepsy. He is not much more than an animal, really, because he can make himself understood if he's in pain or if he's cold or hungry or something like that. But he doesn't really, he doesn't have any way of communicating more than that. He can't sit, he can't walk, he has a tube into his stomach where they feed him. When I started working with him, he was having a huge amount of epileptic seizures in a week, anything from 30 to 50 major grand mal seizures in a week. He has severe brain damage in that when you look at his brain, it's not convoluted like a normal person's brain, it's smooth, so there's a load of damage with this child's brain. They had him on an EEG, and it registered that he's actually having seizures constantly. So although we were only seeing sort of 30 to 50 major seizures in a week, he's actually having seizures constantly. Reiki to me wasn't enough, it wasn't addressing him. I would do a session on him, I could feel the energy backing up my arms, and all of a sudden he'd have the seizure. And I knew that something was happening, that Reiki was adding fuel to the fire. It was putting more energy in where actually it needed to be discharging energy from this child's brain. So you could actually, I could feel the seizure about to happen in what the energy was doing, running up my arms, and I just knew it was this kid's head was too full with energy. So I did quite a bit of reading at the time and looking for something. I didn't want to go and do another course. I wanted to try and work out how to help this child, and the dad had said already that I was the one that was going to help this child. So no pressure, eh? So one of the books that I read at the time was called Bioetheric Healing by Trudy Lanitis, and she talks about the etheric level of our energy fields, which is basically a duplicate of our body. And this etheric level has an intelligence, and you can talk to this etheric level and give it instructions. So we tried that with Gregory. She had a little section there for epilepsy, and we tried it with Gregory. And we would give the instruction to balance the brain, clear the energy of the brain, and heal any parts of the brain that were damaged. And I would have to do it every single day. So for months I worked with him daily, not in person, because I'd already worked with him. I could connect with him at a distance and do distance healing. It only took 5 minutes. And in the first week, he never had a single grand mal seizure. Completely none, nil. From 30 to 50 in a week to nothing. Then depending on him and whether he had a chest infection or whether cold, or depending on how well he was, he would have anything up to, I think the most he had in a week was about 12 grand mal seizures. And that was like full temperatures and that kind of thing. So, and now they're really very much more under control. He's going to be 10 in February. He's grown up quite nicely. He has an awareness of self now, which he never had at 5. I don't know whether it's just generally a maturity thing. Enjoys people, loves to be around people, moans a lot and gets involved in the conversation and will laugh for no reason. And you know, he's just quite a nice little child to be around. So he's grown quite a lot. And so he started seeing me in 2006, when that was sort of the beginning of this after working with him, there were normal people who would come to me with issues of stuff. And so body balance activation techniques sort of developed out of working with Gregory initially and learning how to connect with this etheric level and how to give it instructions. And how the body is basically like a 4-year-old. You can't give it a whole string of instructions all at once. You need to give it simple instructions that it can understand, can't take in any other way, and give it time to complete one instruction before you go on to the next. You communicate with any small child and you give it a whole lot of instructions to do. It's forgotten what the first one was and it's trying to complete the last one. So it needs to be done slowly. I wanted to just talk to you about some of the key ideas that we sort of address during the process of our healing session, what we believe that we are working with. And it's been made known by movies like What the Bleep Do We Know, The Living Matrix, and The Shadow Effect. If you haven't seen The Shadow Effect, it's an amazing movie. The other ones are a bit more well known. And they have got these sort of well-known scientific minds that have been studying quantum physics and that kind of thing, so that they give you a whole lot of information. So some of the information I referred to tonight has been taken from movies like that because it's mainstream. There's no point in me talking to you about some vague scientist somewhere who did some vague experiment on some vague thing. You're not going to have any concept of that. But when you do have a look at these movies, you will actually find that a lot of what they're talking about we actually address in our system. The first thing I want to look at is DNA. A little bit of additional information with DNA that people don't sort of normally know about, so it's sort of extra stuff. I do believe that from the beginning, I've always said, we do work our intention is to connect as deeply as possible with the physical body and to help clear some of the program that the DNA is carrying. This is a cross-section of a double helix DNA molecule. And it's very interesting that when I chose my logo for the body balance activation technique, I didn't know that that's what that looked like. And it is almost identical.
Your hands?
Yes, my hands are on either side of, yes. And that's in the middle. And I didn't know that. When I saw that, I actually got goosebumps because I thought, well, this to me was a confirmation of what I believe we are doing. We're working to the level of DNA, helping to clear memory in the body so that we can function. We can remember our perfection. We can remember what it feels like to be connected to our source. And that's pretty much where we need to be in order to effect healing in the body. This gentleman, Danny Vendramini, is amazing. I love his work. He's a theoretical biologist. He's self-taught, which is why I think he has such revolutionary ideas. He doesn't go with the mainstream. He's written papers that have been published. He talks about this thing called team theory or trauma-encoded emotional memory. And his website is there, www.thesecondevolution.com. And he talks about this team theory as our DNA molecules contains two separate systems of hereditary patterning. One system contains protein coding genes which controls and moderates the inheritance of our physical genetic material, and the other is a non-protein coding DNA or ncDNA which preserves environmentally acquired information or our emotional evolution. This ncDNA is referred to as junk DNA. In general, we know how to code, we know how to read the coding for 2.5% of our DNA. The other 98.5%, 97.5%, it's been referred to as junk DNA. We don't know what it does because we don't know how to read the code for that yet. So all the protein in our body, we can see where that